A major bank made me wait 7 hours. A banker laughed, "Hey, Mr. Low-tier company, you have no balance. The poor don't belong here, just go home." LOL. That's when I made a life-changing decision. Soon after, the bank president spoke to me, his voice shaking. My company's account was almost completely empty. "Wow, why is a financially struggling small business like yours here? You are completely unworthy. Why don't you simply go?" Clutching his stomach, Thomas erupted into laughter as though he had just heard the world's funniest joke. Something snapped inside of me as I saw Thomas talk so arrogantly. I was not making any progress with this, despite my sympathy for my dad. I made the decision to create a new account at a different bank. From the beginning, I had never been a good fit for big banks like this one. The mood in the bank abruptly grew strained when I gave up and got up to go. It wasn't due to an increase in clients, the staff was acting oddly since someone had just entered from the back. Thomas, who had been smugly dominating me only moments before, jerked to his feet and stood stiffly as he spotted this man. "Hey, Brian. Greetings from our branch. You're here a lot sooner than anticipated," he said, his hands trembling as he rushed to meet the middle-aged man. The man, however, ignored Thomas and proceeded directly to me. He looked like he had just seen a ghost because of how pale his face was. His voice wavered as he talked when he got to me. "Excuse me, but are you Jake?" I gave him a gentle greeting and said, "Thank you for always being there for my father." The man graciously returned the welcome. Thomas and the other employees surrounding us, meanwhile, stood motionless and seemed shocked. Not surprisingly, they were shocked that Brian, the bank's president, would personally address a client like me. "What's happening?" Thomas, who was already agitated and in a panic, was going to find out something much more startling that would make him even more distraught. "I'm Jake Hares, and I'm 31 years old. I took over my dad's business, an electronics store in the little town where I was born and raised. My dad was born into a family of traditional craftsmen, but his instructor, my grandfather, died before he could fully learn the trade. My dad launched his business to help support my mom and my newborn elder brother because he already had a family of his own at that point. To make ends meet, he sold handmade toys and repaired radios using his skills. Even though she had a newborn to tend to, my mom assisted in running the store. Their tiny workshop somehow developed into a legitimate electronic business as a result of their unwavering efforts to satisfy consumer wants. But my dad, who sacrificed the family's traditional craft to provide for us, fell seriously ill a few years ago. That's how I, the third son who had been aimlessly drifting after finishing school, ended up taking over the store. At first, I accepted the responsibility casually, but running the business turned out to be far more challenging than I ever imagined. I regretted underestimating what it takes to manage a small-town electronic shop. One of my biggest struggles is being taken seriously by customers and business partners. I hate to admit it, but I look much younger than I am. 9 times out of 10, people I meet for the first time mistake me for a teenager. "Oh, are you helping out at the store? That's so responsible of you." Hearing comments like that is still one of the better reactions. In the worst cases, I get yelled at for no good reason. "Why would I discuss business with a kid like you?" Even when I tell them my actual age, they often don't believe me and laugh it off as a joke. When that happens, I usually explain by mentioning the year I was born and something notable that happened that year. I know I don't look it, but I'm 31. I was born a month after the big hurricane, for example. Something along those lines. Once I say that, most people are surprised and finally acknowledge that I'm an adult. Only then can I start having a real conversation about business. There are people out there who envy those who look younger than their age, but for me, my baby face has been nothing but a burden as a businessman. It's undeniably a disadvantage because I'm always starting several steps behind, just trying to be taken seriously at the negotiation table. I even tried growing a beard to appear more dignified, but people laughed, saying I looked like some kind of comedy actor, so I gave up quickly. How long am I going to be treated like a kid? Maybe if I get married and have children, I'll finally look like a proper adult man. Just as I was mulling over these thoughts, something happened that hit my insecurities hard. One afternoon, I went to a major bank branch in the next town over. The truth is, the electronics store I inherited from my dad had been incorporated during his time. My dad was more of a craftsman than a businessman, so he wasn't great with taxes or legal matters, but a well-informed acquaintance of his recommended it, and he went ahead with the incorporation process. As a result, I needed to take care of some procedures related to the corporate account he had set up back then. So, I squeezed the visit into my work schedule. By the way, the decision to handle these procedures at this particular branch was also suggested by another acquaintance of my dad's. There were other bank branches closer to our home and shop, but after some persistent persuasion from this person, I decided to make use of an inactive account at this large bank. I didn't have any particular loyalty to any bank, and I figured it wouldn't hurt to maintain goodwill with my dad's old friend. When I arrived at the branch, it was bustling with customers, as expected of a major bank. I nervously approached a woman at an open counter. "Excuse me, I'd like to take care of some procedures related to a company account." There was a queue for service, so she told me to wait for my turn. When I nervously explained my request, the woman at the reception desk didn't so much as crack a smile and simply gestured toward the waiting area chairs. Her lack of friendliness didn't bother me much at the time. That's because I had anticipated being turned away at the counter or questioned about my age. Being told to sit and wait made me feel like I was at least recognized as a legitimate customer. Relieved, I sat down and waited for my turn. But no matter how long I waited, my name was never called. The people who came in after me were being helped one after another, completing their transactions and leaving. I thought something might be wrong, but I didn't want to cause a fuss in an unfamiliar place, so I decided to stay quiet and wait patiently. By the time I finally ran out of patience and approached the counter again, more than 2 hours had passed. Looking back now, I think I should have followed up much sooner, but back then, I didn't have the confidence. As the timid person I was, all I could do was just lightly prompt the woman for guidance. Excuse me, but I've been waiting for over 2 hours. Is it still not my turn yet? When I spoke up, the woman at the counter frowned suspiciously and said something shocking. I don't have any record of a Jake Harrison in our system. No, that can't be right, I replied. I'm Jake Harrison, here to handle some corporate account procedures. Please check again carefully. Even so, she said, there's no record of your registration, and besides, we're about to close soon. When I glanced at the clock after hearing her reply, I realized the waiting room clock was indeed nearing 3 p.m. I'm sure I provided my name and explained my business at the counter. In fact, wasn't it you who registered me? No, I don't recall anything about that. Just then, a man who looked to be at least a decade older than me emerged from the back with his silver-framed glasses and his habit of pushing them up with his finger. He gave off an air of being somewhat difficult to deal with, judging by how tense the woman at the counter became upon his arrival. It was clear he wasn't exactly the friendly, easygoing type of boss. After the woman explained the situation, the man, who introduced himself as the assistant branch manager, spoke to me in a condescending tone. I'm Thomas Roberts, the assistant branch manager. So, you're Jake Harrison. Look, young people like you might not realize this, but banks everywhere are really busy these days. Even a branch like ours in the middle of nowhere isn't idle, so don't go causing trouble for the girls at the counter, alright? He made it sound as if I had been giving the staff a hard time. You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 2.